how and why you would form a fix and flip fund. Typically, real estate investors, when they're doing a flip or doing some kind of burst strategy with a single family rental or multifamily rental, they're gonna go raise money on the individual property basis. They're gonna go to an institutional hard money lender usually, or they're gonna go to a hard money lender, or they're gonna raise private money. They're gonna fund that deal, they're gonna put some of their own money in, and then they're gonna sell it or either refinance it and go out and do it again. It's a great strategy, it's worked for decades, and I myself have built a business on it. However, at scale, it becomes very cumbersome, very difficult, and just takes a tremendous amount of time. Imagine for a second that you're buying 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 plus properties every single week, and each has individual investors on it. Every single property you have to go out and appraise. Every single property you have to match the funds up. Every single property you have to move funds from one that you're selling into one that you're buying and back and forth. Literally gotten to the point where I've been taking 2-3 hours out of my week, or my staff has been taking 2 to 3 hours a week just to figure out where they're gonna shift funds. On the other side, maybe you have a down week or something happens where you're not closing projects a particular week, but you're closing 10 or 15 projects a week or two later. You have to send money back to investors and they have to send it back to you. It's just not an easy way to do business. So once you get to the point where you're buying multiple properties every single week, what I recommend you do is what we did, which is you form a fix and flip fund. So essentially a fund is a separate entity. It's a living, breathing thing. It's typically an LLC. It goes out and raises money. So in the same way that people would fund your individual flips, what they're gonna do is they're going to invest in the fund, and then that fund is going to lend money to the individual entities that are purchasing the properties to do both the purchase, the carry, and the renovation. So how do you structure the fund? How much do you pay your investors? How often do you pay your investors? Great thing about a fund is that there are no rules. You can pretty much do exactly what you want as far as that goes. There are a lot of rules in regards to who can be in the fund and how do you market to these people, but we'll get that in a separate video. An example of how you can structure the finances of a fix and flip fund are as follows. We put a fund together, that's a 3-year fund. We raised $10 million. The terms of that are investors can lock up their money for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. What a lockup is when the money comes into the fund and cannot be taken out for any reason. So you can either lock up for 1 year, you can lock up for 2 years, or you can lock up for 3 years. If you lock up for 1 year, you get 8.5% interest on your money annualized. If you lock up for 2 years, you get 9.5% interest on your money annually. And if you lock up for 3 years, you get 10.5% interest annually. We make payments every month. There are other funds that make payments every 6 months, every 3 months. It all depends on what your investors like and ultimately what you like and how you want to structure it. What this enables you to do is always have money available that you can roll from deal to deal to deal that your finance department can easily work with versus having to constantly call up private lenders and institutional lenders to fund on a deal-to-deal basis. The only potential drawback is you have to make sure that you don't overfund. It's better to have smaller funds than have a large fund that you're not utilizing 100%. Understand that if you have a fund, on average, 85 to 95% of the fund has to be in use at any given time, or you're paying interest on money that is essentially sitting there. In conclusion, real estate funds are an amazing way to fund large projects or a fix and flip investor who's doing a tremendous amount of business. It's not something I'd recommend to get into from the jump, but once you've built up a considered business, it's a natural progression and a much easier way to fund.